Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Daily Dose, where we give you practical tips and advice that you can use to work on your business or on yourself. I'd like to start today's show by saying I'm not a financial advisor, nor am I a financial planner. But some of the information that I'm going to share with you today has been vetted by a financial advisor. Whatever I mention today, I want you to discern and make your own personal decisions, and always seek professional advice before making any decision. The effect of this COVID-19 virus has not only been detrimental to hundreds of thousands of people's lives, but it also will have a great economic impact. And I want you to be as best prepared as you can. What I went through recently with our staff at Remax of Southern Africa was to help provide them with some tips and advice on where they could cut some personal expenses. And that's what I want to share with you now. Why not call your insurer or research online to see if there are any cuts that you can make from an insurance perspective. I certainly wouldn't advise dropping your insurance altogether, but many insurance companies right now are either offering payment holidays or give you the personal advice to cut certain areas that may not be needed at the moment. For example, my wife and I have 2 cars. We've decided to literally park the one car for a month, which means my premiums on that particular car can be reduced. And we've managed to save just on 2,000 Rand for a month. Some of these companies will allow you to use your cash back premiums or bonuses to pay for premiums over the next couple of months. You may want to check with them as well. Others will be willing to reassess your profile and also reduce your monthly premium. And some of them, in order to keep you loyal to them, will be willing to waive their administration fee. Check with your insurer. Retirement annuities. Those that have retirement annuities in place, you may want to contact your broker or consultant to see whether that premium can be paused for a period of time. Don't cancel it, don't cash it in. You've been building up those savings for the one day when you do actually retire. But many companies, in fact almost all, would be willing to look at a suspension period for a number of months. So talk to those companies. Any money you have from pausing your RA, you should be keeping as cash savings. When you make any of these savings, make sure you're putting it in a separate account so that you can use for the rainy days that lie ahead. Then from a disability or dread disease policy perspective, again, talk to your broker, talk to your consultant, and ask if there is any room to be able to pause that premium for a month, for 2 months, or for whatever it is that you require. Everyone is looking for a way to help people at the moment. It doesn't hurt to ask. Medical aid. Well, if you do have a medical aid plan in place, this is one to be very careful of making changes on, considering what we're dealing with in terms of COVID-19. But certainly those that have rewards plans in place potentially don't need them, but you must make that assessment for yourself. Things like Vitality, where you do earn so many points in a week and in a month to earn Vitality points, and smoothies and coffees and half-price movies may not be necessary right now. And again, talk to your medical provider, because I believe those programs, or certainly some of them, can be suspended now and reinstated later. When it comes to changing plans, again, I urge you to do your research first before making any decisions. Those with chronic illnesses, especially so. But you could consider looking at your different plans and potentially reducing to what you need, particularly for this year, or certainly for the remainder of this year. Remember, with most medical aids, that allow you to reduce your plan but not change it again before the end of the year. So again, make sure you do your research before making any of those changes. Look at any unnecessary or superfluous subscriptions you may have in place. Things like DSTV, Netflix, Showmax, Spotify, iTunes Music, etc. Some of you might find that a necessity right now, being locked in your room. But I know friends of mine that have reduced some of their, for example, DSTV packages from premium to slightly less because they don't need the sports channels right now. There's no sport currently on. Just a consideration. You must make a decision that's best for you. But have a look at where you can make some of these cuts. And with everything I'm telling you now, try and make these cuts now to get ready for what might come over the next few months. Bank charges. Download your 2020 fee brochure for whichever bank you're with and make sure that you're on the best plan possible right now for the number of transactions that you're actually doing. You might find yourself only saving a few rands here and there, but at the end of the day, adding all of that up over a few months period will show in the bank account down the line. Then this is probably unlikely, considering the fact that we have to stay at home and a lot of us have to work, but should you not need that massive internet connection at home, you may want to consider downgrading your line. Like I said, it's probably unlikely at the moment because you need it. Some of you will need it to work, but that is something that you can look at. It certainly doesn't hurt asking your internet provider for some relief in that regard, even if it's a payment deferment of some sort. Then, do you have any old cell phone or SIM contracts in place? You know, when those roll over, and sometimes we forget to cancel them when they do roll over, have a look at whether you have any of those old cell phone contracts. A lot of companies are also willing to waive the early cancellation fees, so don't assume that they won't. Now's the time where you get on the phone, excuse the pun, find the irony, but get on the phone and see if you're able to do early cancellation for contracts that you don't need. And make sure that there aren't any penalties associated with that. May want to consider changing your grocery store. You know, Checkers is generally cheaper than Woolworths. ShopRite is generally cheaper than Pick n Pay, not always. And you also have discount stores that are selling food. Again, desperate times do call for desperate measures often, so have a shop around and see if you can find anything that's slightly cheaper. And then even when we come out of lockdown, consider factory shops as opposed to high-priced retail stores as well. Then, do not borrow expensive money. You know, rather sacrifice the 2-ply toilet paper for 1-ply if you need to, but short-term loans are going to get you in trouble because they carry the highest amount of risk and interest. So try and steer, if you can, try and steer away from that as much as possible. Then identify your expensive vices and cheaper alternatives. This is probably a touchy subject, but it's a great time to give up cigarettes. It's a great time to cut down on the beer and the wine and the whiskeys and everything else that goes with it. It's also a great time to cut down on those really expensive chocolates and all the luxuries that come with it. A decision you need to make. Some of you will find those necessary to cope with this period, but certainly something that can be looked at and probably should be looked at. And then beware of the discount sale. You know, there will be many people trying to flog their stock at discount prices, whether that's chocolates or shirts or whatever material it may be. Just remember, you may think that you're getting a great deal or bargain because you're paying 10% less, 20% less, 40% less, but you're still paying then 60% of something. Just because it's a good deal doesn't mean it's a good deal for you. Make sure that when you make these purchases, it's something that you absolutely need going forward. And then just a couple of extra things, some emergency mechanisms that you should only really invoke if you absolutely have to in the event of either a salary cut or in real estate terms, getting zero income for over this lockdown period. And the one of those is credit insurance. Find out from your bank about their credit insurance on credit cards, which will pay your card off if your salary is cut for certain reasons. Doesn't apply to everybody, doesn't apply to all banks, and it depends on whether you took that insurance out with a card. So do check in with your bank and look at the T's and C's in that regard. Then speak to your bank if you absolutely have to about payment holidays on your bond repayments. It's the last place you want to go. I heard a report yesterday that even putting a bond repayment out by 2 or 3 months can extend the term of your loan, or the payment period of your loan, by an additional 18 months to 2 years. So something you don't want to necessarily do, but I understand that we may find ourselves in a bit of a pickle at some point, and it's something that you can consider. But do first talk to your bank, please, about that. And then negotiate rent deferments. If you're renting a place, you might want to negotiate with your landlord that you, for example, pay 75% over the next 3 months, and then they ring fence the 25% times 3 months, and you pay it off over the next 6 to 12 months. That way they still keep a tenant in their place, a good payer, and you still get some sort of breathing room to be able to continue life as per normal by making some of those savings. In some instances, if your landlord is willing, your deposit could be used as a security against the 25% shortfall that I've just mentioned. So technically the landlord is covered for a few months. But again, don't just make that decision on your own. You need to talk to your suppliers, in this case, talk to your landlord, and make sure that they're comfortable with it as well. Again, all of these ideas were shared with our staff at Remax of Southern Africa, and they were vetted by a financial advisor. They may not suit you, they may not be right for you, but maybe you did find 1 or 2 tips of practical advice that you can actually use in that. I'm going to repeat what I said at the beginning. Before you make any big financial decisions, make sure that you've spoken to a financial advisor that can give you that professional and expert advice in terms of what you should be doing for your particular circumstance. So I hope that was useful and something that will help you save a few rands over the next few months. I'll catch you soon on the Daily Dose.